Welcome to Driven to Succeed.
Welcome to Driven to Succeed with Adam Fetterman. Adam is the founder of Fetterman Business Law, serving businesses, nonprofits, and local governments across Florida. His background includes public service, community leadership, and lifelong connection to racing. I'm Leanne Lyon, and today we're digging into the purpose behind Driven to Succeed. Adam, as you were thinking about starting a podcast, what kind of conversations did you feel were missing or not being explored in a meaningful way?
I really want to ensure that people are sharing their true, real stories. I think that we spend a lot of time viewing people's curated slideshow of what they want their life to look like, and not enough time talking about the reality of what life really looks like. And the path to success, however that is defined, is rarely linear. It takes curves and sharp turns, and sometimes you double back to a space you've already been before. And I think it's really valuable and important that we have conversations that are authentic, where people are willing to be vulnerable, where people are willing to share the reality of what happened and pull back the curtain, so to speak, show uh, the wizard, and really get honest with each other, because that's how we grow. That's how we help each other. That's how we create community. And that's how, frankly, to take it to an even more global scale, that's how we stop the othering. That's how we get back to a point that I know so many of us want, where we recognize that there's something common between us. And I'm hoping that this podcast and the guests that we'll eventually have on here will help us do a little bit of that.
Love it. Despite the fact that you have a legal background, this show isn't centered on technical legal instruction. So, what really drew you towards conversations about leadership, discipline, and decision making instead?
I imagine there's about 6 people who want to listen to lawyers drone on about the technical aspects of the practice of law. And then there's the rest of us. Even I, at times, find that rote and boring, even though it's a necessary part of my job. I think that as we will weave aspects of the practice of law into the conversations, and the role that effective legal counsel plays in a business person's or other leaders' success, I think that it's just one small part of the overall picture. And I want to talk about the big picture. I want to talk about the specific challenges that people have had, and the paths that they've taken, the mistakes that they've made, the failures that they've experienced, um, and how the law may have played a role in that. But to just focus on the law, to me, was far too narrow a subject matter, and frankly, just a little too dry.
Love it. Brutal honesty right there.
There's that idea that, you hear people say when a lawyer's lips are moving, he's lying. But I believe that if we can start to have honest conversations, we might be able to raise the bar for the practice of law too.
Excellent. Well, as mentioned, your background includes law, public service, community leadership, and racing. When you look across those areas, what kind of experiences tend to shape people more than the formal training or the credentials?
Getting dirty, whether figuratively or literally,
Hmm.
is part of what shapes you. Whether it's working in a restaurant, and I worked both the front of the house as a waiter and the back of the house and the kitchen staff at one point. And I will tell you that one of the best lessons I learned was when I dumped a 5-gallon bucket of tomato sauce on the floor of an Italian restaurant I was working in, and I did it right in front of the owner of the restaurant. It actually changed the path of my life, because that was the day I decided not to become a professional chef and go to law school. Um, the those moments when everything isn't perfect, those moments when things are difficult, when you are facing challenges, whether they be existential crises or figuring out how to pay the bills. Those are the times when we grow. I know that those are the times when I grew. When it's easy, you can coast. When it's hard, you have to figure things out. And when I look across all of the things that I've done over the course of my life, whether it's compete in racing cars or mountain bikes, because I've done some of that in the past, or it's running for political office, or it's trying to pass the bar exam, or work through an incredibly difficult and challenging uphill fight for a client. Those are the times when the real me comes out. Those are the times when I have to dig deep and figure out what I'm made of. And those are the times that when I look back over the course of the 55 years I've got on this planet, those are the times that really show me who I am. And those are the conversations we'll have with people from all walks of life over the course of this podcast.
I appreciate that you talked about getting dirty because success is often talked about in a very polished or even simplified terms. What do you think gets lost when those conversations skip over the difficult or the less visible parts of building something?
You know, life is messy. And I often say clients bring me their messiness for us to work through and sometimes solve. It's an aspect of being an attorney that is the attorney and counselor at law part, the counselor part. And, maybe it's many years of therapy myself and working through my own garbage. It surely wasn't anything they taught us about in law school, but I think I do a really good job at being that counselor and helping people through those difficult parts of life. And um, anybody who tells you that they haven't had the messiness, so to speak, is lying. It's that simple. And that's what's so important here, is that we get real about those things, that we talk about them and share it. And once we do that, then we can start to figure out what the path is to clean it up.
Many people listening may be business owners, leaders, or professionals navigating some uncertainty in their lives. What kind of perspectives or stories do you hope help them think more clearly about the choices that they're facing?
None of us exist in a vacuum. Some of us, walk around in bubbles sometimes, but there's lots of people and experiences out there that are looking to pop it. And I think that anybody listening to this podcast, whether they are aspiring for something or people who may have already, quote unquote, arrived, um, there is the shared experience that is validating. There's the inspiration that comes from hearing someone who's had an experience different than yours. There's the goal setting that comes from hearing the story of somebody who's achieved something that you haven't. And those are the things that I am hoping that other leaders, other professionals, other entrepreneurs will get, both in listening to and appearing on this podcast.
Well, as this podcast grows, what type of guests are you excited to welcome to your show, and how do you see those conversations going?
Well, I've got some people in mind, and I hope will be as interesting as I think they will be. I've got a handful of race car drivers, actually, professional race car drivers, that I'm hoping to have on the show, because as we discussed on the last episode, there's so much similarity between racing cars and the challenges that one faces in life, and I want to hear their perspectives. Some of them are young and up and coming, and I have one in mind who I'm hoping will grace us with his presence, who's a very experienced veteran racer. Um, I also am excited to bring on some of my clients. I have a number of entrepreneurs in a variety of different industries and fields who have each had different pathways to their success, and I think they'll bring some incredible experiences as well. Political and community leaders to share their stories of what it is like to be an elected official, to especially in this day and age, to walk those lines between their political, values and belief and the need to serve members of their community. And others who I'm hoping that the folks who are watching the podcast will share with us some ideas or suggestions about who they'd like to see here and who they'd like to hear from.
Let's talk a little bit more about those followers as we wrap up today's episode. How would you describe the mindset or curiosity that you hope your listeners bring with them as they follow Driven to Succeed?
If you think you've got it all figured out, this isn't the podcast for you. If you're looking for something to just affirm your already held beliefs, this isn't the podcast for you. If you're looking for the step-by-step process, this probably also isn't the podcast for you. But if you're looking to hear about ideas and experiences and failures and mistakes and how they've shaped people's not just worldview, but their paths forward, and you want to have and be a part of real conversations with real people, not just the flash and appearance that we see on social media every day, then this is the place for you to come.
Love it. Well, that is it for today's episode of Driven to Succeed with Adam Fetterman. To learn more about Adam and his work at Fetterman Business Law, visit fettermanbusinesslaw.com. And thanks for listening. Remember to like, subscribe to the show, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Leanne.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.